warm welcome to you all. Our guest tonight is Anoucheka Gangabissoon. She is a writer and has written quite a few poems. In fact, her latest work is Malicious Caught in a Dream. And tonight, during this episode of One on One, Anoucheka is going to share with us her passion for writing. Anoucheka, thank you so much for joining us in the studio of the NBC.
Thank you for inviting me, Koyal.
Anoucheka, you've written quite a few pieces of not only poems but also short stories. So tell us, how did you develop that passion for creative writing? Take us down to your journey.
Well, I think that fate plays along. I think that everyone comes to Earth with a name, with a mission, and I think mine is to share words with the rest of the world. My aim, I believe, is to make people read, but maybe not only to make people read, make people write, and also to be immortalized through my writings. So ever since I was a child, I was attracted to books, to libraries. I would get thrills in libraries. I understood then later that writing can be a job. Books are made by people, and I wanted to do that as an adult. I wanted to make people get thrills through words, through books, through my imagination as well. So I think it started right in childhood. But then as a teenager and as an adult, I studied literature at school level and also at university level. And when I studied the lives of the authors, the poets mostly, who lived misunderstood lives and who died without being glorified, but who became acclaimed after their death, I sort of nurtured the dream of being like them someday, of wanting to be like them. And I think the skies heard me, because fate gave me exactly what I wanted. And today I can only find joy in presenting words and books and poems and stories to the world.
It's a way for you to convey your thoughts to others and influence their mind as well?
Yes, I can connect to people through my words, and I believe that the universality of words, of poems, as you say, it binds people together. I can write about something, love, and you can share the same interpretation, you can share the same feeling for somebody else, and it all relates. Emotions and words are all related.
I was coming to that actually. You've written more poems compared to prose or fiction. So, what pushed you to write in that style particularly?
I became a poet by accident, actually. I have a diploma in freelance writing, and I studied stories, novellas. My aim was to write stories and novels.
Okay.
But I just tried poetry, and I found myself so totally immersed, so totally able to connect to it. Because poetry is, in fact, a deep show of emotion. And being a poet requires having a hypersensitivity to everything that surrounds us. It can be nature, it can be feelings of love, happiness, it can be feelings of hurt, pain, dishonesty, everything, but we just react in a very hypersensitive way to it. So one day, it was just by accident, I just tried it, and it started as fun, posting stuff on Facebook and getting nice commentaries from my friends, which pushed me to go to online literary journals and online poetry sites. And when I started to win poems, poetry competitions, to be placed in online international anthologies, it gave me a sort of boost. Why not keep on doing at it? And why I continued with poems, actually, firstly because it contains some sort of brevity. I can capture several nuances of what I want to convey in a few stanzas or a few lines, but depicted as very deep metaphors, similes, imagery, whereas a story would require 5,000, 6,000 words, and people nowadays don't have time to read, whereas poems are very brief and people read it very fast. And what I like also about poetry is that they convey some sort of ambiguity. For example, I can write about a blue dress. It can be a blue dress, really, or it can be a memory for me. What happened when I wore a blue dress? It could be the color blue. It could be about femininity. It could be about anything. And what I like is that I have my meaning when I write something, but this meaning can be interpreted in however anyone wants to interpret it.
I think a poem is also very open to interpretation.
Yes.
Everyone can view it in one way or the other.
Yes.
But you say that it's brief to read, but
Yes.
I think that it's also very complicated to write one, right?
Not really.
Compared to a short story.
Well, if it comes as a free flow, maybe I won't find it difficult. Maybe for somebody else, they would tell you, yes, it is difficult. But for me, I believe my muse sets my mood, my inspiration, my creativity going, and I just write. Sometimes I just feel like writing and I don't know where the words come from. I just let my pen flow. An author will tell you that. He just think of a theme, or maybe not even. He just lets the pen flow. He can create just a character, Rick, and Rick can be as his pen wants him to be. Like he can be a criminal, he can be a policeman, he can be whatever. But for me, the same thing. I just sit at my diary, at my table, or at my laptop, and I let the words bleed. There's no really any complicated stages in writing. The words just flow.
Yeah, true. So share with us the work that you've done concerning poems, also short stories. Tell us a bit about them.
So I started writing back in 2011. I was then a student at the Open University of Mauritius. I was studying for my degree in English. I experimented with writing, and that was how I first got my first poems going. After that, in 2013, I published my first collection of poems, which was Awakened Fancies. And then came Scattered Dandelions, came A Poet's Secrets, Mirrors of My Heart, and lastly, To My Muse. I was published both locally and internationally. And I also published a collection of short stories, Tales from This World and the Other Ones. I must say that my bestseller has been Tales from This World, because there are hardly any copies left. And lastly, I published a novella, A Mystery in Love Island, which Love Island is Mauritius, depicted as Love Island for the feelings of peace, love, and brotherhood that we share. But I must say that writing is very time consuming.
Exactly, please.
I spent my weekends writing the short stories. I wrote on paper first, after that I typed, and then editing, friends helping, or you seek professional help. I must say, maybe being single gives me time to delve into this art with as much passion as I want to, like having no other thing to do. And I must say also that for one to write, I had to cut off from social obligations. If each time I would have this place to go or relatives to meet, it takes my time off writing.
Yeah. So it's a lot of sacrifice.
Yes.
Behind writing so many.
But you don't find it difficult, because if it's something you love, you find time for
true.
it. You make
That's
time
true.
for it.
Yes. But is there any recurrent theme that we see in your poems or short stories, and why is that so?
I think the recurrent theme in the poems would be love. Like in Awakened Fancies, the main theme was some sort of love between a human and her god. And in the other collections, I became the human seeking my God. It became more structured then. The main themes that you would find in my poems are love, life, afterlife, death, the meaning of life, the essence of life, our purpose, our aim, spirituality. You would find all that. In the collection of short stories, the main theme was about two beings who come to Earth to solve their main issues, and they go back. Whereas Mystery in Love Island is a mystery thriller. You would have three young heroines who would help solve a werewolf mystery in the island. So that I wanted to create that for a young audience, because parents, when I would go for book signings, they would ask if their 10-year-old can read that, and I would have sadly to say no, unfortunately, it's for an older audience.
It's also a bit of universal motif, right? Everyone can relate to those.
Exactly. Feelings, emotions, they are of universal nature. Like you would tell me, what drives language? They are emotions, but language is behind emotions as well. They are interconnected. So I can write something, and somebody in Russia, if he understands or she understands, can relate to what I'm saying. Or if the poem gets translated, it's the same thing. Yeah.
So Anoucheka, you've been writing for quite a few years now. Do you feel that there's a kind of maturity now in the way you try to express your ideas? And how do you see your growth as an author?
Well, firstly, yes, I have grown as an author. If you read Awakened Fancies, you would find very fun writing, immature type of writing. Whereas now the writing have come like a bit more calm and composed, like they have aged. Like they say, the finer...
Like you trust your writing now a bit, yes.
Yes, but Also, I have written in French, so I will be publishing a collection of poems in French soon. And I think the main point for me to celebrate is really that I have edited a collection of poems. So Mauritius Caught in a Dream is an international anthology of poems, which has as theme our island, the reverence of our island, and it was an international, meaning we have poets from all over the world who have participated and contributed, and this was really the growth for me, like writing, seeing the writing myself, but seeing the writing, reading, choosing the pieces, seeing which pieces could not be put in the anthology because maybe they were plagiarized, maybe the writings were not good, correcting the sentences, and it was all hard work. I think my growth has really been that I have started editing. But some people have asked me, do you need to have experience as editor to edit? And I said, no, the moment you can understand where a sentence is written wrong, you can understand how to correct a sentence, how to accept a poem, I think the editing work is in you. Yeah.
And what was your creative process for the poem Mauritius Caught in a Dream? You've recently edited it, right?
Yeah, so the idea came last year in December. I wanted to do this project for this year. So I contacted a publisher in India which published to my Muse. It is Inkju Publications. And they are really a group of young, dynamic, and talented publishers and artists and authors as well. So they immediately accepted my project. It was an anthology. They have experience in compiling anthologies. So it was the first from Mauritius. And they designed the Google Forms. I just helped with the selection of poems and everything. They did everything. They designed the Google Forms. I sent out a call for poem submission. They helped me with the cover design. They helped me with the launching. They have helped me with everything. It has taken quite some time. It was hard work behind because the editing, the correcting was done from Mauritius to India. Sometimes we were not in the same time frame, or sometimes I have written about some corrections that needed to be done, but they were still not done. And it was a very tough
Tough job.
energy needed
Yes.
activity, but finally, now that it has been completed, I must say I'm proud, though I'm still waiting to have the printed copies brought to Mauritius.
And how does this piece of writing fulfills your aspiration as a poet?
Well, it gives me a boost, a startup as an editor. I think it adds on to my credentials that I can act as editor. It completes me also as poet because it is not only my writing that I'm putting to value there, but I'm helping others value their writing, especially on a theme as the reverence of our motherland.
Anoucheka, is there an instance or memory from your childhood that you feel at this point in your life now stands as a metaphor for your eventual life as an author?
Other than my love for books, other than my attraction to libraries and everything written, I don't think there's anything that any incident or memory that pushed me to become a writer, because as I said, I think it's fate played along, and I'm also a very quiet, shy type of person. I prefer written modes of communication. So maybe this is what helped me. When I think about it, when I want to say something, I say it better in written mode rather than in verbal mode. So maybe this pushed me to express my ideas further on paper rather than expressing myself verbally.
And thus knowing that your work are published, your poems are published out there in the world, validates somehow your being as an author?
Well, as an author, we want our work shared and read.
Yes.
But it's both. At the same time, when my poems are placed in contest, when I'm chosen among the winners, I mean, you don't get any reward in money-wise or certificates-wise. It's just your name listed there among the winners. It's all for the love of poems. But you get what I usually call un plaisir d'artiste. So I need both. I need the poems out of me, yes, but I need the appreciation, the validation for it to make of me a poet, a certified poet, yes. I need both.
Your poem, To My Muse, what is it about actually? And why is that title?
So when I was writing the collection of poems, I was just going about with the flow of emotions that were going through me. So it was about the themes that I have mentioned: life, love, death, purpose, etc. And I thought that of a title. What title would I give this? So I said, why not Revere My Muse? This poem, this collection is for my muse. And my muse could be a being of light, a celestial being, a being I don't know, but some sort of unknown power who drives my pen. So why not revere the muse through this collection of poems? And when I sent it to Inkju Publications in India, they liked it so much that they told me they will publish it as a gift for me as traditional publisher. So it was all right.
How much time did it take you to complete that work?
It all depends. If I'm writing on an everyday basis, to complete a collection of 100 poems, it can be quite fast. But if I'm writing at the same time I have studies, at the same time I'm trying to work on a novella, I don't have any specific time frame. I can write and just forget about the time. I can spend 2 hours in writing, and when I look back, I wonder where did time go. Writing, when I'm immersed in it, it's when I let go really of everything else. I can forget about everything else.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a time frame when I say I need 1 year to complete a collection. It can be shorter or it can be longer. It's just a free flow.
Anoucheka, you're a poet, and normally an author chooses words that aim to trigger memories to readers. The metaphors, tone, rhythm, simile have access to the reader's senses. So, how do you view the tight, intimate connection between language and reader as a teacher, but also as an author?
Well, we need language and to communicate, definitely. But language is connected, deeply connected to emotions, and poetry conveys these emotions. Whereas any messages we want to send, any, like you say, connect to the senses and everything, we have to go through writing. We have to go through expressing ourselves. So I think writing and language, they are deeply interconnected, and yes, they help with connecting to the readers.
And what are the features in poetry that you believe contribute to the aesthetic and emotional reception?
Well, other than the similes, as you have said, the metaphors and everything, I really like the ambiguity of the poem. Like I have mentioned, I can write about a blue dress, I can write about the choice. The title can be the choice. It can mean anything, and one person will relate to it in his own way. So I think poem has a universality. It can connect people from all the world, all over the world together, but in a most ambiguous way. And if I don't explain the poem, nobody would know what I'm really
Yes,
talking
exactly.
about.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's also very interesting, you know. That's the beauty of a poem, I think.
Well, I used to think of that as mystical. When I say poetry was came to me by accident. I used to think that writing a poem is a very mystical, magical activity. I won't be able to do that. But finally, I found myself trying to defend myself as a poet.
And how do you see the role of a poet in this contemporary world?
Well, in today's world, I think poets don't fit in the society. We are misfits. We see life, we see things from another point of view. But on the other hand, I think poets are also thinking poles. Poems can necessarily not be on love or anything else. It can be on matters such as crime, wars, poverty, and poets really, in fact, they reflect on things that the others don't really bother about. And poets, I think, they are also beings of light. They bring out compassion and empathy in others. When people will read their poetry, it might trigger some sort of thoughts or even emotions. So I think poets are beings of light, which can also encapsulate change in a society. They are being thinking poles.
That's nice, yes. Anoucheka, you've published so many works, but I'm sure it wasn't so easy. So talk to us about the challenges that you've encountered while writing those pieces and even publishing them out there.
Well, I am a woman poet, so the first thing that I would tell you, Koil, that I have experienced is the gender biased criticism. I have received criticism that were hurled at me simply because I'm a woman. The fact that a woman expresses her emotions as openly as I do is mainly because she's seeking attention. And the other criticism that I have received, is it really poetry? Whereas a man would write poetry. So is it really authenticated poetry? And the other difficulty that I have received, as all poets, all authors, is the financial constraints.
How do you deal with the criticism then?
I just make as if I didn't hear anything and I just go on my way. The other difficulties were the financial constraints and the marketing strategy, because when you stand at the table, you try to market your book, you have to talk to 50 people, and among the 50 people, only 3 will buy. So I think we have to value what we have in Mauritius as authors. We have to value our artists and have people more interested in what we are doing.
Do you actually have any particular writer reader in your mind when you're writing?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I write for an audience. Sometimes I write for a contest. So it depends on the theme of the poem, on what I want to write. But at the same time, it's a free flow. So I don't really think that I have to limit myself to this stanza has to be on this theme, this topic. It's just a free flow. It just comes naturally. And I've had some of my best poems for contest as being free-flowing words. But if it is for a contest, like the theme was Rest, Don't Quit, which is a poem which I will read to you later on. So I have to think in that line, in that term, so it is more structured. But I just think about it and the words just come naturally. It's not really complicated issue, and sometimes if I have to seek for how to say a word, the meaning of a word, or the thesaurus, the how to say a word in another way, so I go ahead with it.
Do you think that it's important for the community of artists and writers to empower each other?
I think it is important, yes. We have to create a collaborative community. We can empower each other, we can create network, we can allow our works to be marketed, we can support each other, we can give feedback, we can give support. I believe, yes, we have to do more for artists to meet and support each other. Maybe create a group, maybe via Facebook, via social media or something like that, yeah.
So do you enjoy promoting the work and meeting the readers?
Yes, it's very difficult. Even when when the readers don't buy or anything, it doesn't matter. But just talking about the book, seeing a spark of interest in the readers' eyes when they tell you later I will buy or something like that. But just meeting people and talking about the book, I enjoy it a lot. But it's very difficult to do when you go for book signings, standing alone, sitting alone, and having to talk to people, try to get them interested in what you do. It's something very difficult to do. But if you love what you do, you will keep on at it. Yes.
And what are you currently working on, or what are your future projects?
I'm trying to write in French now. So I have studied my degree in English, but I find French is quite a very beautiful language. So I'm trying to work on a collection of poems written in French.
So we are actually drawing towards the end of this episode, but before that, Anoucheka, please read to us your favorite poem.
So, sure, Koyal, I have chosen to read to you a poem I have written entitled Rest, Don't Quit, because when we are tired, we have to take pauses and not quit. So, what happens when the moon isn't up to her best? She takes a break, dozes for a while, and comes back shining brighter than she ever did. What happens when the ocean waves lose their energy? They lap at low tide, allow themselves some peace in their lonely expanse, merely to enjoy the view of the night sky. What happens when the day feels like she needs some time alone? She breaks into a yawn which gets transmitted to us all living creatures, and she slips into a delightful doze. But what happens when we humans feel like the boulders we carry on our shoulders have become too heavy for us? What happens when we glance at our fate lines and feel like we shall never make it to destination? Why, instead of following nature's example, we simply close our diaries, tear the stories up, and look out for other things to do, when all that is required is a well-deserved break, one potent enough to take our minds off our toils, have a sit back, breathe and relax before we can make our comeback. Pray, is existence not beautiful when we quit solely at the moment that we have been fated to?
So beautiful, this is lovely. Anoucheka, before we let you go, any advice you would like to share with the audience who are watching you to encourage them to keep pushing and keep believing in their dreams like you've done?
So I would have words of advice to people who want to write or to young authors. I would tell them firstly to believe in their own voice. Like if they believe they have the drive to write, they want to do something, keep being at it. Secondly, read a lot. If they want to write, they have to read widely and have their work read and listen to feedback, criticism. If they are being told that they need to make these changes, this improvement, kindly go ahead with it. And also never back out when faced with rejections. If a publishing house has said that they don't want to publish their work or something like that, try another, improve their writing or write something else, but never give up.
Thank you, Anoucheka. It was a delight to have you on the set tonight and discover more about your passion for writing.
Thank you, Koya.
Dear viewers, we have now come to the end of this episode. Thank you for your time. We hope to catch you next week at the same time, same channel. Have a great evening.